Spider-Man 3, the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time. Or is it? Spider-Man 3 is a 2007 movie directed by the GOAT himself, Sam Raimi, as I've said every single episode. I'm already out of breath.
Because of how long it just took you to get into the chair.
I did something to my knee when I was working out.
Can you keep that in?
Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Topher Grace, and James Franco, and of course Jared Leto. It made $894 million on $350 million budget, supposedly. Now, low range is like 285, but that's a lot of money. Why? Where did it go? And how...
To Bully Maguire.
What's interesting to me is, like, how much did it take to make Endgame? It had to be more than that, right? But, like...
Wasn't it like $365 million, though?
Like, where did this money go? I don't know if
maybe
it was...
VFX cost more back then.
Topher Grace? It all went to Topher Grace. He made $100 million on this movie. It has a astonishing 63% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.2 on IMDb.
Okay.
Brutal. Does it deserve it, John?
I don't know. We'll talk about that later.
No. General thoughts.
It does deserve it.
That low?
But I don't know if that's what I'm going to give it.
Okay. I think its problems are a bit more apparent than the last time I watched it.
Yeah.
But it's still like, not perfectly paced, but it's just like, it's not engaging. Like, it's one of those things where I don't get on my phone for it at all. I'm watching the movie the entire time. It's fun, and there's definitely a lot of good ideas here.
Yeah.
But if what is said is true, where Avi Arad was like, you have to put Venom in because it makes money, that's kind of an L.
Yeah, it is.
I wouldn't have liked to see New Goblin as the main villain. Or, sorry. Yeah, I guess, because, like, it would have been weird if, like, the villains of the Sam Raimi trilogy were Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Green Goblin.
Yeah.
So, like, it's nice to have Sandman and Green Goblin, but then there's just Venom. But then again, like, I would have also, I guess, liked to see just Venom, because even though, yeah, he doesn't look, like, comic accurate, I like the idea as, like, what the symbiote does to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
It explores his ego, which is in contrast to the last movie, where it did the opposite. It explored how much he has to take a beating. So, like, that's really a good idea. I mean, I guess what you could have done is, like, you know, he gets the symbiote in this one, and he has it, and then in the next one, Venom appears. Hypothetically, if they made a fourth, but obviously, the toys were to sell Venom, not to sell Black Suit Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So, you know, fuck you, Avi Arad. He probably is the one who also screwed up Amazing Spider-Man 2, and may have stopped them from putting Uncle Ben into the current movies.
You see, Jack, these movies are not this movie. This movie's good, yes, but it's so rushed.
It is, which is sad.
It's so rushed.
Green Goblin, rushed.
I remember watching it. It was 40 minutes were left, right?
Yeah. You're like,
the final fight still didn't happen, and like, what else didn't even?
Well, what
happen?
always shocks me is when the final fight comes up, like because I remember distinctly when it cuts to the screen where the news report is happening. It's like that. It's like no transition from Act 2 to 3. It's just like you're there. Because I remember when I watched this in like 2017, it just like shocked me. Like I was appalled. I'm like, we're already here.
I remember at the 40 minutes mark, Bully Maguire was just happening.
Yeah.
Just happening,
yeah.
And there was still 40 minutes
Because I remember the Venom symbiote lands, and I kept on thinking, when does he get the symbiote? Because, like, we're really, like, far into this at this point. And I guess we can go into our topics now. Let's start with Bully Maguire. Iconic, for sure.
Yeah.
And I will be a constant defender from an objective and legitimate standpoint. But this is a good idea.
It's a good idea. We did not need the dance scene, though.
The dance scene works in the 21st century, I think, as a meme.
Yeah.
In the internet age, I think it works. But like, yeah, it's not great. But I think I like the idea that it's like Peter Parker doesn't know how to be cool. The symbiote can't tell him how to be cool. It just makes him have an ego.
No, I think he's supposed to be cool because you see how the women look at him. It just doesn't. It just doesn't work.
But in the commentary, Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire both say you're not supposed to know if they're appalled or actually attracted to it. And Sam Raimi makes the comment, no. He's like, he's not a big fan of this movie, but he doesn't seem to think that the ladies are attractive. But yeah, that when he like slips the money to that one chick, she seemed attracted.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the streetwalkers, not so much. But yeah, the dance is great, and I think it's a cultural milestone. And obviously, Bully Maguire just wreaks havoc everywhere he goes.
I forgot how cool the fight over the ring was.
Yeah, the CGI can be a little rough, but it's real. It's cool to see just how far they came for like the swinging scenes.
Mm-hmm. And then when he saves Gwen Stacy,
someone else, some other Spider-Man could never.
They introduced her way too late.
Well, we're gonna get to Gwen in a second.
And they never mind. We'll get to it.
Yeah. So, and also, Bully Maguire has I love the he has two of the best fights when he's Bully Maguire. One, the Green Goblin fight.
Yeah.
The jazzy the back and forth type thing was so good, and then obviously, gonna cry. Oh my gosh, absolutely iconic.
Oh, little Goblin
and it's
Jr.
always little Goblin Jr. gonna cry. And it's so badass. When he walks away and he throws the bomb, and he just right the back at his face.
That was so unnecessary though.
I know it was Bully Maguire. He's just a menace. Like that's his entire character. But the Sandman train fight is
so
awesome.
When
Yes, bro. The suit looks so good in that shot, and not only that, but what did I ever do to you?
When he first gets the suit, I genuinely had goosebumps.
Yeah, no, that literally is my favorite scene of any of these movies. It comes from this movie, which I think it's the saddest part, but the best part is every single villain has a great scene, you know, and it's so sad because you see had he just been able to focus on one or two. Oh my gosh, this movie could have been as good as the others.
Oh yeah, that just also reminds me, at the 40-minute mark, we didn't even have Venom yet.
Yeah, and it's it's just so sad, because it's you see all of it, and he's a good director, and it's that scene, when he's what did I ever do to you? Or whatever he says, and he's and you took everything from me. It's so good, but that's it. Sandman doesn't really get much more than that, though his final form is pretty cool. But other than that, it's it's an L. It's an L.
Yeah, it's an L.
It's an unfortunate L. And this is the beginning of studio meddling in comic books.
Somehow they did not realize that it was not a good idea.
Yeah, somehow they didn't learn from their mistake and decided to do it again in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
And even more studios decided to
do it again. Oh my gosh, bro. Absolute menaces. Maybe they're just trying to be like Bully Maguire. But now let's talk about Venom, John. Okay. I like Venom in this movie more than I remembered. Now,
Venom's death is really cool.
Don't like the design much. It's cool, the broken webs. I think for an interpretation, but yeah, for the first live action Venom, would have been cool to see the actual one. But I don't know how it would have looked. So that's kind of my I'd rather have a good looking non-comic accurate Venom that keeps the vibes than a bad looking comic accurate, because then it's just hard to watch the movie, which is probably
Tom Hardy's Venom costume in here.
See, that would have been good, but I like this. I like the dichotomy, the idea here that's he's just the opposite of Peter Parker. And when he, I just love the scene. Well, first off, the scene when he gets the suit, the Venom symbiote.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. That's what I'm talking about. That's Venom's really good scene in this movie. And I think the final battle is really solid too. He's legitimately kind of scary when he's not Topher Grace.
He's just going the.
Yeah, but actually we'll get to that. We'll get to that more. Something I was going to say in a second, but yeah, he doesn't get much, but his couple scenes as the villain of the movie when he gets the symbiote.
Except for that my spider senses are tingling. If you know what I mean. That's a little weird.
Yeah, well, but yeah, when he has the right to be angry, because Bully Maguire did take everything from him. He stole his girl, and then he embarrassed him in front of everybody he knows. And he's just whatever.
I still think the funniest thing about this though is he's Bully Maguire's you want forgiveness? Get religion.
Yeah.
Where does he go?
To the church, and that's where he gets it.
That's where he gets Venom.
Then that is legitimately good. What do you know? We're finding a common theme here, John. Overstuffed, but
we're just talking about all the good. There's so much bad in this movie.
Is there though?
Yeah.
I think it's generally.
I think it looks good and is entertaining, but okay. Tobey Maguire's acting here is a lot better than a lot of the other ones, but just some of its pacing is not good.
I think it's good. I mean, it's not well,
Like, it keeps me entertained.
I think it's too, maybe too quick, but I think that's more of a detriment to the biggest. I think the thing that makes this movie not as good as the others is the fact that it's overstuffed. But everything that it's overstuffed with is good. But that's the problem, is none of it gets time to linger like it does in Spider-Man 2, which I think is such like an easy comparison. It's like you look at Spider-Man 2 and he's not Spider-Man for like 45 minutes. And you look at this and Venom doesn't show up for an hour. So it's like it's such like a stark contrast. You know? So like I think that's the overall problem, and it leads to smaller things. But I don't know, I don't find much wrong with like the small details. I think it's just a general problem that happened to this movie that's unfortunate. But I want to talk about Sandman, which, well, we kind of did already. But let's talk about the Uncle Ben, like, reveal. I don't love it.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, it's like the stupidest thing. Peter literally talks about how stupid it is. Why the fuck are they taking now to just tell him when they've been investigating? Why weren't they like, we have this guy, we have an idea who it might be?
Exactly. I just don't like what it does, because, like, it's supposed to be a basic thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, he just died. That's it. Like, because Spider-Man let him go. But now it's like his. It doesn't matter that Spider-Man really let him go.
The ending, the payoff with it is kind of cool.
Yeah, like it's emotional at the end, the forgiving part. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, well, do you want to sacrifice that for this moment, or was there a better way to do that?
Yeah, it's just like, how do they not for 2 years tell him that this was not the guy who killed him?
I think in an ideal world. Maybe we'll do a video on this, like what our Spider-Man 3 would look like if we wanted to clear it up and keep the general theme. A little seed I'll plant if we ever do that is, in an ideal world, if it's just Sandman as the villain, Aunt May dies at the beginning. To Sandman, but it's like an accident. Because obviously Aunt May dying is emotional, and she kind of has played her part, because her scenes are kind of like...
She's not in this much.
She's not in it much, and I mean, I guess she's in it as much in Spider-Man 2, but... I think her scenes are more poignant in that movie.
Mm-hmm. I feel like she doesn't serve as much of a...
Yeah. She just kind of plays into the Mary Jane plot, which is underdeveloped like everything else, so it doesn't feel as important. But, like, you know, I think there's room to do that. Give them some more loss. And have Sandman do it. And then you can have the exact same payoff. But you're not, like, undermining the origin. Mm-hmm. So... Yeah, I mean, the idea's there, but I don't love it. Mm-hmm. But I like it, so yeah. And then let's talk about the new Goblin. Maybe the most wasted villain.
I still think some of it's kind of cool, though.
I think... Oh, no, I still cry at the line where he's like, best friend, and he dies. Always hits. His death is ours, but I just wish we got to see more of him as a villain.
Yeah.
And, like, play more into, like, the drug kind of themes.
I like the scene where he's pretty much... We just see him as, like, a psycho, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, like, when he's there, it's great. And I do, like, I think, like, resetting him, the coma isn't great, but the moments it creates are really nice. Mm-hmm. Like, when they revisit and you kind of see that blissfulness of Spider-Man 1 again, it's cool. You know, because something this movie and series is good at is, like, letting it seem like time passed. Mm-hmm. So it's cool to, like, revisit that. But, yeah, I just think that, like, he's a villain for one scene. And then, or I guess 2. And then, you know, and then the butler's like, it's true what he said. Well, why didn't the butler tell him earlier?
Yeah.
Because he was wreaking havoc on, like, people for a long time. Drinking himself to sleep probably every night. And the butler just, like, let it be until he got half of his face charred. Yeah. So it was like that was a weird decision and a weird way to wrap.
Cool guy, though.
Like, I wish that it was, like, just with Spider-Man and him that wrapped it up. Mm-hmm. Because unless the butler was like, but then it wouldn't make sense how we revealed it. So, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, biggest worst thing is, why didn't they just make him Hobgoblin? Yeah. You know, I like Hobgoblin a lot, and he has a lot of different origins and people who are him. But, like, just like how Sony made, like, the Marvel Spider-Man game, it may be Harry as Venom. Like, that's a good simplification of the story if you're just trying to tell, like, a simple plot. They should have done that with Hobgoblin. Yeah. Because then he gets a cooler suit.
I wonder if we'll ever see a Green Goblin in those video games.
Yeah. That's the third one, right?
I'm hoping so.
That seems like the obvious way to go. Okay, Gwen. It's so weird
Yeah, she should not. The
what?
actress I don't think does a great job, but like.
No, I don't think so either. And
She's
like
from Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
Jurassic World. I mean.
She's the daughter of Ron Howard.
Mm-hmm.
He's I can't remember what he does.
I just don't think Gwen works in this movie. I don't think they introduce her in a good way.
No, like okay, what was the plan here? Because there's no way they would have worked as a relationship after what happens in this movie.
Mm-hmm. And it's clearly like she's not meant to be a love interest.
Yeah,
he's just using her.
Exactly. And then, but like the idea was that if Kirsten Dunst didn't return, you have Gwen to go back to. But why would she ever, like, story-wise, go back to him?
Yeah.
It makes no sense, and Gwen is easily my least favorite part of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Seems so unnecessary. Pretty much everything you could have done with Gwen, you could have just done with Mary Jane or left out of the movie and cleared it up.
And it's just, like, with such a big character to Spider-Man, to introduce her like this,
like
and to do that.
Why didn't you do, like, Topher Grace dated Betty Brant? Because she's in these movies, doesn't have a big role, isn't huge in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Do her, she's here, and you're like, it's so much more simplified.
Yeah.
Story-wise makes sense because they're both at the Daily Bugle, and there's always been like a tension between them. It's like, oh
and honestly, if they really wanted to, they could have easily just done a little flip between Gwen and MJ's roles here, and had MJ die in this one and Gwen introduced in the fourth one. They could have easily done something like that.
Yeah, just flip
it.
But. Yeah, that was always a poor spot for this. And MJ,
she's such a bitch.
But she's always it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, this is the one where I'm like, why didn't she just tell Peter to cry and say Harry's making me do this? He's not listening, bro. Well, maybe he has super, but they never set up he has any hearing, enhanced hearing. We know he has some powers, but I don't know. It just.
But even if she tells him, Harry's making me do this, what the fuck is Harry gonna do?
Yeah.
Harry wants to kill him anyways.
Well, I think Harry would just kill MJ.
Well, yeah.
Actually, at the end of the day, that's it. Other than that, I think everything that's done with Mary Jane is good because, he does slap her.
Well, yeah, later on, but I'm talking about in the first scene where she just seems so upset that he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, but it's obvious that that's all he talks about. Because, then, after she tells him, after we see her tell him, which is probably not the first time she's done this, stop talking about Spider-Man when, we're talking about me, which is a bit ego, but yeah, what do you want to hear about your partner's life every time you try to just tell a problem?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be, vulnerable when all he's no, but, Spider-Man, that happens to me all the time. It's all good. And then at, proposal, he does it again, and it's it's understandable why she'd be upset. And I think it's set up well. She gets fired, and she leaves the building, and... well, would you know it? Everyone's applauding Spider-Man, but she takes an L, and then Peter's not there for her. But I always thought that the end was good. Just the end of the movie, how they resolved it.
Yeah, with Sandman. Yeah.
With the hug.
Yeah.
Or the dance, or whatever you want to call it. It's are they together? We don't know, but they're kind of meant for each other. Mm-hmm. There's not the buffer of Gwen in these movies. Well, there is, but in the way that in the comics is maybe Gwen and Peter would have been married if she didn't die.
But I think I honestly kind of like how that is. It's the Spider-Man Blue where he always visits Gwen. Yeah, great. That stuff is good. That's good, really good.
But it's too much, I think, unless you did 3 trilogies.
Yeah,
for a TV series.
Bro, they easily could have made 3 trilogies with this Tom Holland we have now and done the actual comics. But
yeah, I guess. But I mean, there's so much more. Oh, God, we keep on getting on this topic. I think there's
we'll talk about this in a video later.
Yeah, just think there's more dynamics to Spider-Man being in the MCU and the how the MCU has gone to just introducing Spider-Man. But trivia time. We'll end this off with some trivia. So for a little, I don't know how long or how true this is. Maybe just an idea that floated around in office that they were going to split this into part 1 and part 2. Which I was going to say when I talked about him maybe just getting the symbiote in this one. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, that would have been much better.
Yeah, probably would have.
Resolve the Sandman plot here maybe. Yeah. Just do Sandman and then have the symbiote. But then at that point you just do Spider-Man 1 and 4, or 3 and 4. But I would like to see that.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of saying is I'd love to see Spider-Man 4. Alright, I saved... So, there were a couple scenes that actually they were shot, but they were never released. And it's kind of interesting. So there was a montage of Peter in the black suit taking down criminals and leaving them strung up. They were that would have been so cool to see more action with the black suit.
Yeah.
there were also supposedly like a ton of character building moments that just like couldn't get in for pacing reasons. We don't have any like real specifics, but once again, that's sad. A confrontation scene between Captain Stacy and Eddie Brock, where Gwen dumps him at her father's house. So
I would have loved to see that.
But yeah, because we never really see that.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, they're broken up now. And Peter freaking out after he looks in a mirror and sees a nightmarish version of Venom symbiote screaming at him.
That'd have been cool.
Oh my gosh. So we can get a Spider-Man 3.1 if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, John, release it for Spider-Man No Way Home. Because Tobey Maguire is going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home. So Bryce Dallas Howard, who played Gwen, did all of her own stunts. But she was pregnant. But she didn't know it.
Did she still have the baby?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It didn't go bad, but oh my gosh.
Damn.
I literally would have been like, what do you even do? Like,
what do you mean I'm pregnant? What? How long is this baby?
I may have just like fallen off of a building for a movie onto my stomach. And now this was an interesting idea. So originally the butler was going to be like an envision or an illusion of Harry's good side. And like cool. Norman would have represented the bad.
That'd have been kind of cool actually.
Which is but
then that scene
they ran into the problem that like how would Harry have known? But I think that would have been cool is like he subconsciously always knew.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It could have been something where it's like he always knew.
Yeah, but he just like was never willing to accept it because he wanted like that enemy.
Not even just that, like he just didn't want to believe his father was that bad of a guy.
Yeah. So anyway, but they didn't have the time, and they thought that was a plot hole. They thought like how would so. But that would have been really cool to see.
Turns out the Green Goblin in the first one is actually Harry, and he never died.
Oh, but the biggest problem actually is that the butler was in the second one, and Peter Parker interacts with him.
Yeah.
So, and then
that could have just been Harry.
Oh my gosh, it's two Harrys. Peter Parker isn't real. It's just Harry Osborn as dreaming. All Spider-Man 1 through 3. All right, then we had the original plan. So supposedly, this was the original plot. Immediately after Spider-Man 2 released. Oh, actually, hang on. According to Sam Raimi, the film initially dealt with the concept of heroes with a dark side and villains with a sympathetic side, as well as dealing with the triangle between Peter, Mary Jane, and Harry. The Sandman was made the film's official villain. The screenwriters made his character merely a petty criminal in the comics, the real killer of Ben Parker, to further Peter's guilt over his uncle's death. Raimi wanted another villain in the film and eventually settled on the popular villain Venom to please fans, which now we know is Avi Arad, push. There was the addition of a rival love interest, and then you can kind of see how this all builds into what happened. And then here it says Alvin Sargent considered cutting the film in two, but couldn't create like a good intermediate climax.
That makes sense.
So yeah, it seems just like had a basic idea, you see that, and then through studio pushing and producers, things got added, and
are you ready to rank it? Rate it?
Yeah, John.
I'm gonna give my enjoyment for this one an A.
A plus.
Okay. The number.
No, letter or not letter. No stars.
Well, yeah. Well, I meant I knew it was stars, but I just meant I'm stuck between a 3.5 and a 4.
4.5. I'm sorry, man, but I'm
gonna have to.
Are you gonna have to defy logic?
I'm gonna have to go for a 3.5.
Oh my gosh, John, it's not.
I'm sorry.
Great movie.
Nostalgia was, for this one especially, was fucking
best score, by the way. Of any of them.
This nostalgia for this one was through the roof for me, especially because with just the whole Venom stuff. This one especially, I had the most nostalgia for, but I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry, Jay.
No. Yeah, the score is the best in this one, though. Yeah. The jazz elements, and obviously...
Maguire.
When he becomes a black suit. Perfect. Anyway, tell us your thoughts on Spider-Man 3 down below. Do you think it was wasted potential, or was it a great movie on its own? Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, all at Rebored Podcast. You can check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts at Rebored Podcast. Like, subscribe, stick around for more content, every single week. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Goodbye.